I'm Justin Snyder.
And I'm Stephanie Greenwood Snyder.
We're just an average, everyday couple.
But over the years, we've seen the incredible importance of building community together.
We'll be talking with friends and experts about their stories and experiences to help us learn and grow.
We don't want to just survive through life.
We want to intentionally thrive.
This is The Intentional Thriver. Okay, welcome back to The Intentional Thriver.
Hello.
Are very excited about today's guest, Cy Mirasol, who goes way back to college with Justin and I at film school.
Boy.
And Cy, welcome so much. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Good to have you. Good to be on your show.
Yeah.
Oh, well, hey,
Welcome.
thanks. So glad you're here.
So, Cy, I got notified a couple of days ago on the Facebook that 12 years ago I got accepted into film school, and I put it on the Facebook. And you said, "Congratulations, Stephanie. We're going to make a film someday together."
So this is that film, Cy. This is that film.
That's it. Yeah.
Our standards have dropped wildly.
Our professor would be so upset. Like,
so proud
what?
of us.
You're not using film? It's all digital. It's all digital. We told you guys.
Yeah. Hey, we're doing something. No, we're so excited to have you. And something that, as I was thinking about talking to you, and it's been a minute, was just your senior film. You asked me to help you on it. And something that I really admired you of you was how cool under stress you were.
Yeah, cool under pressure.
Yeah, you were so chill, and I was stressing out. And I remember I forgot a power cord to one of the lights. And I don't know if you remember. And of course it was a Saturday, and of course everything was locked down, and we couldn't get into the studio to grab it. We eventually got, I think,
someone
out to get it for me. But I remember you never made me feel like horrible or like that stupid freshman, and just really appreciate that about you. And I'm sure that serves you well as we're going to learn what you do now, which has just been so fun to follow your career. So why don't we go right into it and talk a little bit about your background and what you're doing?
Well, let's start off by saying I think the reason I was so under this cool, I wasn't freaking out was because, as a senior, I had been on many of those sets already, right? So I was a freshman, I was a sophomore, I was a junior, all different years on senior films, and seeing, all the rights and the wrongs and the, and experiencing it for myself. So I've made all my share of mistakes. So it was one of those things that hey, if you you get on this freshman for not doing this one thing, they might just leave the entire, program because this is too much stress.
Sure.
So don't worry about that. That was more, that was, I think, coming from a place of experience where I'm like,
he still holds on to this day. He's just waiting for the opportunity to be like, that was you.
I've been planning my revenge for 14 years.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, I've used our film education, I guess, our storytelling, and I've really kind of pursued my real passion of performing. That's always been it. Wow. I think I came from a place of unsurety growing up, because ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be, in the Mighty Ducks films, with all these other kid performers. And to this day, I at least grown up, I was always I was actually one of the Mighty Ducks. They just cut all my shots. I'm just not in any of the scenes.
Nice.
But I was so part of that crew in my own brain. Wow. And in a sense of that's where I belonged in my brain, right? But I think as you grow up, especially in certain upbringings, my parents were definitely not the kind to encourage that type of career. Yeah. They're just trying to do what's best for me. They didn't understand the performing. And coming from Hawaii too, that we don't know anyone who does that as a upbringing. So I think when I went to school, I just knew I loved film. I loved movies. That was an obvious pursuit. But I think if anything, college teaches you to go for it. You put all your best foot forward and see what you're made of. Mm-hmm. And so, in college, I took some of those acting classes as electives. And, I was like, I got this. I got this.
Yeah.
So, right after college, I got an agent and, booked my first commercial, and then, performing led one thing to another. And now I am doing stunts full time here in Hollywood. So
Nice.
it's a very, very long journey, but it's funny how everything kind of just naturally steps into each other and flows into each other and then circles back.
Yeah.
12 years later, like, hey
Yeah.
guys, what's up?
I know.
Well, that's the crazy
It
part, I
is.
think, about this industry, because it's a weird industry.
Mhm.
Like you said, when you grow up a certain way and in certain circles, it's
Right.
difficult to communicate. Like, I
Right.
have this passion and interest, and I mean, almost a calling, for lack of a better word, to do this.
Yeah.
And there are definitely some
Yeah.
days, like, I don't know about you, but for me, there's some days like, why am I called to this? Why couldn't I have done anything else? Like, why couldn't I just have been
Right.
an engineer,
Don't-
work
Right.
9 to 5, and be good to go? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes.
But
yes.
like, it just gets in your blood, and
Mm.
you just have to do that. You have to tell stories through filmmaking. It's such an incredible, powerful medium. Like, it's just such a cool thing. Like, why do you think that that's been such an interesting thing to you? Like, storytelling, performing, specifically through film, live performance, that kind of thing. Like, where do you think that some of that interest comes from?
I think it comes from a place of, at least for me, I think the imagination is it's such a it's such a beautiful thing for a lot of us. I mean, whether you're an artist or not,
Yeah.
whether you're someone who kind of doesn't identify as anyone who's artistic in any means, I'm sure those kind of people who maybe they feel like, oh, I just do my 9 to 5 job. There's nothing too special about me. I just do this, provide, and I'm a happy little clam. But I think in the recesses of your brain, you're still this kid who's played in the backyard or has played around with their toys, and their imagination is great. So whether it's the filmmakers or the writers or the actors and performers and stunt people themselves, in front or behind the camera, it doesn't matter. I think we all have this imagination and that wonder of, had I had I grown up in a different time frame,
Yeah.
would I be a knight? Would I be a pirate? Would I, or if these worlds were actually real, if space and all that scientific made up stuff. I shouldn't say made up, because who knows? Maybe it's real.
Who knows?
Who knows? But like all the how far your brain and your imagination can stretch you, it's at least nice to kind of walk down those paths where maybe the world is fantastical, but that human element is still there. How would I behave in
Yeah.
that world had it been real, or if it is real, if it's a different time frame, or just maybe it's current. Maybe I was born in a different country or in a different family situation. Maybe I was born a prince, all this kind of stuff. Or maybe I was born, you fill in the blank. Then it's this imagination of telling the stories of humans and what their journeys are, and the struggles and their triumphs. I think that connects everybody, because everyone wonders about that. And it's fun to explore all those details and those corners, which I'm sure you guys are having a ball with.
Oh, yeah.
Film
Yeah.
side.
Oh, yeah.
You're speaking our language. I mean, that is exactly it. And it's so all consuming that, I mean, Justin, the kids can be screaming, everything can be going on, and he just has to get this storyline like out of him, because
it's a disease.
No.
It's a disease.
No, it's a gift.
It's
but
a curse and a blessing.
It's very special. So we met in film school. Like you said, you have so much background of the filmmaking behind the camera, the storytelling, the writing, but now you have kind of found your place in stunt work, which is
performing in stunts, which, like, again, I think a lot of people forget how much performing goes into stunt. It's not just like, oh man, you're a meat shield and we can just bang you around and you jump off buildings. Like, there is so much performance and nuance that goes into that kind of work. Yeah. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So specifically in stunts, because there's such a, just like filmmaking or any genre of um, work and career, there's so much different ways that you can specialize. How
Mm.
teachers can specialize in, you know, maybe history or math, or being able to teach certain age groups or special needs or whatever the case. Same thing with filmmaking. You can focus on cinematography or the writing side or the lighting side. For stunts, there are people who specialize in the high falls, the wire work, the fire burns, stuff that I've all been able to at least train and experience. But I
Nice.
specialize more in combat.
Oh, cool.
The guy that goes around and makes, usually usually my type. They teach you early on in performing, like, if you want to work, if you want to be someone who's going to book a lot of gigs, you got to figure out what your niche is or
Mm.
what your type is. So, for example, let's use something that most people should know, right? If I were to walk into a room and they're casting for Peter Pan, it's pretty obvious I'm not Peter Pan.
Yeah.
I don't look,
Yeah.
the traditional, right?
Maybe Wendy. Maybe Wendy.
Right. There you go. See, I was gonna nail it. That was the point I was getting to. No. You got to figure out what your type is, which was great when Hook came out in the '90s.
Mm.
Right.
When that was the first time I saw, someone of, Asian
Yeah.
descent, or Rufio, he's of the same bloodline as me in terms of, like, he's Filipino,
Yeah.
right? So that was something like, wait a minute, like, this is a guy that looks just like me, like, and now I'm kind of invested, kind of going back to what we were talking earlier about, like, why the imagination is so important. Because
Mm.
now all of a sudden I don't, like, I would lock in like any other boy, I would try to be Peter Pan in my brain, but then until I started seeing that movie, I was like, I could be trying to think about being Peter Pan, but as Rufio, that's like I could actually see it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
me,
Wow.
amazing.
So the point I was trying to get to is that my type is more of either like a side character, a best friend. As I get older, I'm starting to portray more the villain types. And normally my type would be the kind that gets into the scuffles with the heroes that are kind of driving, the film or the live stunt show or whatever the case. And going to your point of how precise it is, mm, the fighting is more of a dance than anything.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we're both going up there and we rehearse and we practice. Matter of fact, I was just at one of the shows that I'm in last night, and we're teaching the new performers what our show is, and we're just going over the entire step by step of, hey, this is the part where I need this from you. I need to see you really prep that punch, so that way when you do send it towards my face, I'm able to track it with my eyes and respond to make it look like there's an actual hit there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But there's this partnership that we both need to be on the same track, and the end result is selling this really great, cool fight that most people, especially the kids, they really think it's
Yeah.
happening, like it's real to them.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going for, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've really found my niche in my type, and that's how I'm starting to book a lot of work. And I'm enjoying it. It's super fun, and it's precise though, so it gets dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is you're gonna if you ever get married, you're gonna be great at it because you can communicate what I
Yeah,
need.
exactly. When you try to
Yeah.
punch me,
I need you to
I need
really
this
wind
from
it
you.
up. No.
Right.
I mean, that's
Right.
relationships right there.
Yeah,
Like,
I connect with
Yeah.
what you're saying about, like, you're talking through some of the steps within stunts and that process. And I mean, again, I don't think people realize how involved that really is. And like you say, how much of like a dance, how much discipline, how much
I
focus, like
didn't.
so many
I did
pieces
some prep
within
work.
that.
and watched that Jackie Chan video I sent you.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
whoa, that man is an artist. Like,
that's exactly the word.
That's exactly the word. I was mesmerized by how different his films are here versus the ones he makes
they were in China.
Like the cuts are different, the action is different. You have a longer shot, so you can see him actually like get hurt like a lot.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just I was blown away by him, and you made me watch a whole bunch of
I did
stunt work that I
well I'm a big Buster Keaton fan personally. I've always like ever since I was a kid I really respected and admired his work. I mean, more people were more I'm kind of a 90-year-old man in the 30 years, so that's why it's like, didn't you grow up in the 90s? Why are you like a Buster Keaton silent movie fan? I'm like, Buster Keaton's my boy. No, but can you talk a little bit about just kind of your inspiration within that? Like if you have some people that inspire you and a little bit of that like progression of stunt work, because it looks a little different. I mean, I don't know if people have seen or even know who Buster Keaton is. Like, I think if they saw him, they would know, but there was like this classic stunt that he did that almost should have killed him. Like Stephanie used the word, like they're just such artists. Like it was this movie, Steamboat Bill Jr. And it's like this hurricane that's happening and he's standing in the front and they had one shot to get it, one take. And the whole front of the house falls and there's this like tiny window, like a barn in the front. And he just like, it lands right on him.
And he doesn't.
And he was known as like the stone face actor. Like he never react. And that's what made it funny. But he calculated all of that. There was a nail in the ground that he stood on. And like when they filmed it, the cast is like, I can't watch this because he's going to kill himself. Like this is going to fall on him and crush him.
Yeah, I bet your mom loves watching you perform.
Oh my goodness. Don't get me started.
And so it's like, hopefully it's evolved a little bit more than like, man, I hope we don't kill ourselves today. But like even Jackie, like you said, and like an artist like Jackie Chan in Police Story, when he goes down that pole, man, like
with the lights popping all over himself.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
Or even
and he had
like
one chance.
People more like Tom Cruise, who does a lot of his like he broke his ankle recently when he was jumping from a roof, or Keanu Reeves or Zoe Bell, or all these like really fantastic, amazing artists.
No, it's great because the evolution of stunts. It's nowadays, comparing it to Buster Keaton. Buster Keaton was, among those people who, in a way, were like pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, no one's kind of seen that type of entertainment / stupidity / it's this combination of like, okay, well, people are too scared to try this, but if I calculate it, if I put in all the extra work, I am then in a realm of getting this reaction from viewers and audiences that no one else has gotten yet. And that's kind of why Buster Keaton is one of those people that I think maybe set a standard, because then people are all, okay, well, what could I do that's different, that's going to get a reaction that hasn't been gotten yet? And so, you look at the cowboy films where there's these, brawls in a bar, and it kind of just, great, that looks this awesome. And, for most people, hopefully, they're not going every weekend to a bar brawl, so they don't know what it looks like.
Yeah.
True,
right?
True.
So they're just, they're consuming whatever the television is, or the movies or the theater is putting up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you really fast forward into, like, I think, for me, I think it was the Bourne series, Bourne Identity with Matt Damon, and how that really took a turn for the stylistic fighting, where it's very quick fighting.
Yep.
And the cuts, there's so many different cuts, because when you watch the behind the scenes, because it's so technical, they can't really do those long takes that Jackie did back in China.
Mm-hmm.
It needed to be 4 or 5 quick hits, and then cut, and then practice the next 4 or 5 quick hits and try to get it tight. So that way, when you edit it all together, it's this 50 hit fight that looks like it's consecutive, but they took their time with it, and that's how they're able to make it look real. But now we have, John Wick and even Tom Cruise. His Mission Impossible films went from very spy, very covert, very heisty, to now it's, they are required to learn the jujitsu, the Muay Thai, so that way each hit, if someone is coming from a background of martial arts and they know that art, they're like, oh yeah, he's using the elbows that we use for offense
That's
and
cool.
defense, or
Yeah.
the arm bars that, and he got into the arm bar correctly, as opposed to like, oh, this is what he was getting pushed back, and then he got this hit, and then he countered it and turned it into something, and then it comes from a place of practicality. And I think a lot of that has to do also with MMA and media, and how everyone now has a phone, so they can watch everything so easily now. So now filmmakers have to really be a lot more on it with what they're putting in front of people, because the general audience isn't like back in the Westerns where they didn't know anything about martial arts. The general audience nowadays knows so much about martial arts.
Yeah.
So the films like John Wick really has to come from a practical standpoint. Like, he's clearing rooms with the training of a real military guy. Like, and so that's part of the reason why, like, right now it's so exciting, because I get to push the boundaries in learning new things, because I don't want to be the guy that people watch and be like, okay, it looks cool, but it does not look believable, or
Yeah.
these are all the flaws, right? So it's fun, and it's, I'm like everyone, I'm always learning new things. That's the exciting part.
Wow, that's amazing. And
Yeah.
I think something that we all as non-stunt people could glean from you is, what is your process of focus and
Ooh,
discipline
that's good. Yeah.
for prepping for these shows, or even going into a film or something like that? What do you do to prepare, and what does your discipline look like? Imagine.
So, so just so everyone who's listening
Yeah,
understands
please.
too what I do, I'm in 4 stunt shows in Southern California that are live action, in the theme park area. So that means I'm performing in front of a live audience every week. That's all I do. I don't have any other job. I'm usually working 6 days a week at all these different stunt shows. Which in and of itself is its own discipline, right?
Yeah.
You are I work with some of our stunt coordinators from one of the companies that I work for, and he's a pretty decent name in the film industry. Like, he goes and he is stunt coordinator on several films and TV shows, and so he's worked with, some of your favorite actors.
Yeah.
Like, he's been on those sets with them and has taught them how to fight. So the same knowledge that he's sharing with, um, these actors, he's bringing it back to us and sharing it with us. So we're learning all these same things, but he tells us, number one, you treat yourself like you're a professional athlete, right? Like a professional NFL player. Your job is to stay healthy, stay healthy, stay healthy, stay healthy. So when it comes to live action, um, theater here in Southern California, and I'm performing in front of 3,000 people at one of these shows at Universal Studios. Um, the nice thing is that this is something that I know. I know the choreography. I know all my partners, and so it's hours upon hours of learning each other's style, our timing, our body positioning. Some of my partners are a lot taller, so they have a lot more reach. So positioning our body a different length away, so that way when they extend for that punch, it really gives them the power, the look of power that they need. And then finding out, oh, someone else has a really different timing on the combo, so I need to be able to sell that reaction, right?
Yeah.
So it's nice because the live action is a choreography that we know all year round. Now, if you're to go onto a film set or a movie set, that's different, because my responsibility in these live action films is to get enough rest, to eat healthy, to be well hydrated. So I can go in fully focused, not tired, you know, and being aware that I'm 35 feet in the air,
Yeah.
or sorry, 35 feet in the air. I'm doing a stunt. I could trip over my shoelaces and fall on concrete, metal, whatever the case. So I really need to be on top of my game so I can sell my stunt dive and make it look very dangerous, but I'm in full control, right?
Yeah.
So it's a huge responsibility for me to take all that home. But going back to a film set or a movie set, a lot of that, yes, it's been rehearsed, but those are such short period of times. They can previs something, and then we actually go on set. We'll shoot it, and it's something that maybe you only know for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But on the day you show up, they're like, "Hey, the director wants to try something different, or we're adding this new thing, or we want this to be a little bit bigger."
Yeah.
You kind of have to be on your A game to explore these, something that you're not used to. Not to say that you'd ever put yourself in a non-safe situation,
Right.
but you kind of got to be in a mental state to be like, okay, if there's changes, how can I adapt to all these changes right on the fly,
Yeah.
because that's what the film or the TV show needs. So it's two separate things. You got to come in with um, the right mental preparation, the right rest, but also being able to anticipate how to change things and how to be okay with that, and how to do it
Yeah.
as safely as you can.
Yeah, because it's such a collaborative process in that way, and every director works a little differently. Like for us in the camera department, like when we are doing stunts or we are doing like that,
Yeah.
that is such a big part because that's the perspective that we're telling the story from. And you were talking about the Bourne
Right.
movies right before that. Like the camera work within that is so intricate and integral into that storytelling
It's
and the
almost part of the
style of
dance.
it. Exactly.
It's another
like,
partner.
it's like another. It's exactly right. It's
Wow.
another partner within that dance, and so
That's hard.
coordinating that, getting enough coverage, making sure that all the looks are correct, that the director's vision is being accomplished, that the DP's vision is being accomplished, that the producers and the studio are going to be happy at the end of the day. There's a lot of layers involved in that, but really in some ways at the end of the day, like you as the performer, like it can be the best lighting in the world, it can be in focus, it can be great, it can be all these things, but like as the performer, if you're not in the pocket, if you're not like there in discipline and focus, it's going to miss out on like how good it could be. And so like the importance, like you're saying, of that focus and discipline and that collaboration too, I think you brought that in, are so important. And I think honestly, like those are principles for people who aren't stunt workers,
exactly
or like
right.
even for us working at camera, like the importance of focus, the importance of discipline, the importance of collaboration, like those elements are so universal. How does that play into your everyday life?
Yeah. So one of the things that I share with my cast at this other show that I do, I'm the fight captain at one of the shows, and all that means is I have the opportunity to coach people on how to make the fight look more realistic or help tell the story correctly. And so one of the things that I always tell my cast is like, okay, if we're trying to sell a moment in combat, there's three people involved in this moment, right? There's the person, and let's just use a punch because, that's a standard one. The person throwing the punch has to give a little bit of a heads up that the punch is coming. So if I'm the partner who is selling the idea that I got punched, if I don't see it coming, then I don't know how to react correctly.
True.
So I have to see it coming. So I'm hoping my partner allows enough of a prep to do it. Now, there's so much other things that are involved, like how to measure it, how close, how far away it is from your face, how to, at the very end, you kind of give a little snap at the end of the punch so that it emulates the fist hitting flesh, getting the resistance from the muscles and the bones, and it's kind of pushing through all that, which of course it's not happening, but we're making it look like it is, right? So there's a little bit of technique involved in their body, but when in terms of partnership, if we can see it, I can react to it, and when those two things happen at the same time and it's done correctly, our sound partner who's up in the booth behind all the audience can hit the sound effect. So that way the hit is all three of us telling that 1 millisecond of the story,
Right.
and then doing the same thing throughout the rest of the show. So it is partnership. It's kind of having this courtesy of like, hey, I want you to look good. I am 33.3% of this entire moment.
Yeah.
So I could be 100% on top of my game. But if my partner isn't aware or he's, not there, we're going to be losing all those moments, and vice versa. If my partner is doing his best and I'm just not giving the right reaction, or I'm not doing my best, then the audience kind of loses on that storytelling. So it's a collaboration of all three of us trying our best, but then it's that partnership of like, I want you to look good, I want you to look good, I want you to be safe, I want to be safe. So let's dial this in. Can we walk it real quick? Can I show you how my feet work and where I'm going to be moving? Do I need to change anything? And then it becomes this great partnership of storytelling, and it's beautiful.
Wow. There is so many lessons in that. Like,
yes.
I really
go back and listen to that again. People.
I know. That was amazing, Cy. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a time, I know this might throw you off, where either you or your partner were not 100%, and like either how you like, I'm sure you have lots, but like, what did
I'm sure there's so many.
Well, I mean, you perform how many times a week?
There
has to be. We're human, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And what is your process for like helping each other? Like, I'm bringing this into our marriage right now. I'm like, okay, there are days where I feel like,
am I marriage counselor?
Yeah, I am giving 100%, and I'm just like, hey, my punch is coming. You better start reacting.
You better get ready.
No, not literally. I do not punch Justin.
Yeah, that communicative, collaborative. How do you, like, when you're bringing your 100%? How do you, or can you even encourage other people to bring their 100% without coming across as judgmental, condescending? All of those things.
Thank you. Yes.
This is a really great question, because that's part of what I bring into my job as a fight captain, is because I, we have similar upbringings, and we know that there's a lot more to life than ourselves, right? We're kind of constantly trying to figure out the best way to be generous without burning ourselves out, without all that type of things. And for me personally, it's the respect of theater and the art form, right? For me, I'm like, I just want to tell a great story. I want anyone to watch to not feel like they're getting robbed of a story, the right story, right? I know that motivates me. Not everyone's motivated like that, right? So I will often talk to my cast, and you want someone to fix their punch, or they fix their sword swing, and help me tell this sword fight properly. And sometimes certain people they won't reciprocate the effort, so you kind of got to start speaking their language a little bit. And I found that the one thing that has helped me the most is figuring out what it is that they want, right, from the show. What do you want? Like, what do you want from these moments, or what do you want from this job? Or are you just here to get paid? Because if their answer is, I'm just here to get paid, then it becomes, there's a lot less to work with. And then I invite them to be like, okay, cool. No pressure, because they're not invested, but I can at least ask them like, hey, I'm wondering, for this specific moment, this is something that I'm personally just trying to work on. When in the back of my brain, I'm like, this is something that isn't working together, and it needs to fix, because whether it's dangerous or whatever the case, I will invite them to be like, hey, I'm personally working on this. Do you mind partnering with me? Do you mind helping me try to fix this thing in show today? And then it becomes not about them, when it is about them. It's about their partnership, but in their brain, they're thinking like, oh, I didn't realize that was a thing, and it's important for Cy. Let me help you with it. When it's inviting them into this partnership, workspace. And so, certain partners. I have one of my friends. He's gung ho. He's real young. I think he's like 22, 23 or something like that. And he's just trying to learn everything that he can. So when I ask him, hey, can we work on this? He's like, he'll make that adjustment right away. And some other people just kind of have to figure out. But, going back to our life lesson type of thing, it's figuring out what the both of us want, right? And that's whether it's stunts or not, right? If there's something that, people need to partnership or relationship wise, like what do we both want from this? Do we both want to, raise our kids with this type of mentality, or are we trying to create this safe environment?
Mhm.
What do we both want, and how do we both get there?
Wow.
Right? Because I know this is what I want. And I don't know if this, like, you want something else, but if we can both talk about what we want and they want both might be different things, where is that middle ground? Or is there a way that we can both accomplish both of our goals and
Yeah,
accomplishments? And more than likely you can. You just need to communicate it.
sure.
So
That's so good.
That's really good. That's really good.
Justin, will you partner with me?
I will. I will partner with you.
There
For
you
those
go.
listening, we're holding hands,
This is
partnering
that
that
with
was
was
each
free.
so
other.
good.
That
Actually,
was a
I was
free
also
one.
thinking of my team at work, and I have one-on-ones with 6 of my people weekly, and I'm like, I'm gonna give them a good example this week.
They're
I'm
gonna see these
excited.
punches coming.
Yeah.
But I think motivation is such a huge factor.
Yeah.
And I mean, what you're doing right now, as we're in the film industry too, it is not an easy industry to
It's
be
tough.
in. It
It's
is
tough.
competitive. It is
Long
messy.
hours.
It
It's
is
tough.
ugly.
It's
It is
sacrifice. A lot
I
of
mean,
hard work.
there are people that are difficult, as in every industry.
Yeah.
But what has been your motivating
What?
factor? What keeps you going? I mean, you said the story and giving people an experience.
Right.
What has been your motivation?
That's a good question. I mean, I like to tell people too, on top of the fact that I'm just a kid, man. Like in terms of, like, we grew up playing with, your army soldiers, or, with my Jedi and my Sith. Like, I've had so many lightsaber battles in my brain my entire life. And so, um having that, like, imagination, I'm literally that in and of itself. It's like,
Mm.
it's me, it's this kid that's grown up to now be able to make choices. Unfortunately, like, pay taxes and all that kind of stuff, and get really rocked every single year.
All right.
But I'm in a situation where I know how the world works,
Yeah.
but I can make my decisions. And if I do want to ever get that fulfillment of playing in that gigantic sandbox of a galaxy far, far away, what does that mean?
Mm.
Like, obvious dream role, Star Wars, right? But it's not one of those things that, for me, you can't just hope that it happens.
Right.
You got to make all the choices, all the paths to move yourselves in that direction.
Yeah.
So that way, when the opportunity presents itself, it's not too hard to be like, oh yeah, this guy actually has done all the work, and he matches, like, all the looks. He has all the education. He has the resume. He has the acting reel. I guess with performing and acting and all that type of things, a lot of people think like, oh, it's why would you want to be an actor, right? Because, if in order for you to be successful, you have to be famous, which is
Oh.
it is a stereotypical, misconception, right? It's
Ooh.
that's not the thing. I actually remember hitting this point in my life where, I was an up and coming, actor, trying to figure out what it meant to be a professional and how to audition. And um, I met one of my co-stars' dad, and he was just like, "Yeah, great work. You guys, booked your first commercials. That's awesome. Stick with it, stick with it, stick with it." And he said, "I've been an actor my entire life." And I'm kind of like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Have I seen you in anything?" Because I
Right.
didn't. I don't recognize him at all. But then he started listing all the things that he was, like all these, like, small roles that he's done. He's like, "Oh yeah, have you seen this film on Disney Channel? Yeah, I was the dad, or I was the coach, or I was the principal." And then you're kind of like, "Wait, I've seen all these movies, I've seen all those films, and now that you say it, yes, I know exactly who you are."
Mm.
But in no way would anyone recognize him if he walked into, like, a Chili's or something. Like, no one really knows that, right?
And
So
that's
I
not
guess
always a
the
bad thing.
Mm.
right. So I think right away, the whole misconception of, in order for you to be successful, you need to be famous in stunts and acting and stuff. That was that was a great thing for me to know and hear about, because in order for you to be successful, if you want to be in a Star Wars film, because that's for me just what I want to do,
Yeah.
that's so cool, right? But does that mean I'm going to be the guy on the poster? No, right? I would be more than happy to be, you know, some I don't know, some guy with a lightsaber that doesn't even have lines. But the new villain in Ahsoka just was like, all right, select this guy, have a couple, have a couple fight scenes,
Yeah.
and then I end up losing. To me, I'm just like, but that just doesn't happen
Yeah.
if I'm staying in my room and just hoping, right?
That's
I'm
right.
going in, putting in the training, seeking out advice from better people, and not just taking advice from anyone. Because even with film, someone can say that they're a filmmaker, they can say they're a writer and they're a director, they're a producer. When you see their body of work, then you start being really impressed, because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, wait a minute, maybe you haven't done a lot of things, but everything that you have done stylistically is so on par with what I resonate with. That is so,
Wow.
oh, that's making me think differently. There are other people who have so many other um, bodies of work out there that are not quality, but they might be pretty successful. They might make a lot of money.
Right.
So it kind of comes to a point where you have to gain all that experience, know how to market. Um, Yourself, and I'm not saying um, market yourself in a superficial way. It's
Yeah.
Right. No, I
market yourself in
Yeah.
a
understand.
way of like, hey, like, this is what I'm good at. I'm not saying um, I'm not saying that you have to lie about things. You just have to be straight up. This is the value you get out of me if you
Yeah.
partnership with me. Like any other job, whether it's performing or not, whether it's in the arts, whether it's in the TV and film industry or not, if it's in daycare, if it's in, being a fireman or a doctor, you really know how to know what your strengths are and know where people value partnershiping with you,
Yeah.
right? And so that kind of is the long way of saying, like, hey, if I ever want to be on a Star Wars film, I got to make it obvious that I can do all these things that if I were to get hired onto a Star Wars film set, I bring so much value to that storytelling because of all these other small things that I have accomplished. So it's more of a smart business choice rather than a wish granted, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So
I
That's good.
love
I
that.
think that
Wow.
flows perfectly into the next question. You're talking
Mhm.
about success and the importance of like putting in the work, putting in the effort. What does it mean to you? I mean, our podcast is called The Intentional Thriver. What does that mean to you? What does
right.
that mean to you to intentionally thrive in your life?
I think so. We talked earlier about our calling. What
Yeah.
is it? What is that thing? What is that one thing, that really makes you feel accomplished, and or just gives you that sense of completion, right? And for me, um I'm an artist. I love that aspect of storytelling, and I think as I get older, um I enjoy less seeing myself
Mm.
on film and TV. um Only because, like, I think when you're younger, when you're a kid, you're really like, oh, I want to do this. I want to be Han Solo. I want to do all this kind of stuff. And I think just as you get older, it's not something that you need anymore. It's just
Mm,
more of like, I want to be a part of it in any way.
mm.
And so if someone else is telling the right story, whether it's me or not, if I can help them tell that right story and we can get this audience to come on this hour and 45-minute journey with us, and for a second turn off our brains to what the actual world is, and escape a little bit, and we have this suspension of disbelief of, hey, this is this great story of, triumph and hardship, and then overcoming odds and making the difficult decision, and then finding friendship, and then maybe the story of a reluctant hero and all this type of things. It's this really great thing that we then take into our real life that helps replenish who we are, right? And maybe I'm over there. I'm lucky to have a really great job and with people that I enjoy. I realize that not everyone has that. Maybe they don't have something that they're really passionate about. I know a lot of people who are still trying to figure out, what is my calling? I
Yeah.
don't know. And that's okay. If you don't know your calling, that's fine. Sometimes you can find inspiration in books and movies and TV or other people. We as humans want to teach all those morals, or not maybe not even teach morals, just give someone a better sense of who they are. And it's okay to feel a certain way, but then also, don't back down when life gets hard. Stick your feet in the ground,
Yeah.
stand up. This is where your worth is, kind of like, X, Y, and Z, right? So I love that film is so much more than entertaining. It has this sense of moral fiber, but then it's also never really hits it on the head.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of times the people see themselves as these characters, and then they take away that character, and that character kind of lives within them, and that helps them in their life, because as we know, the world is, it sucks. The world is horrible, like, specifically, I was just, we just got through tax season. I was telling my friends that, like, hey man, this past 4 or 5 year tax seasons, I don't understand. I keep getting rocked, and we're just, as you get older, you just know the world is like, we it's just difficult. And then amongst the other things, like family situations, and then work situation,
Yeah.
relationship situations, like, whether you have the, maybe you have an injury, maybe you have a
Sure.
physical ailment that you have to, live with. A lot of things, people don't all come from different circumstances. And I think film and TV really help us um, escape for a moment, but then after it's done, we take it with us, and that allows us um, to be the best version of ourselves, because we saw it when we were in the movie theater, or we saw it when we were watching that YouTube mini series that your friends made. You're like, oh, I saw a little bit of the best version of myself in that character, and that was interesting. I never really thought of myself that way, but I started feeling a certain way when that character was going through this certain thing, and then you learn a lot about yourself,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
while watching film and TV. So what I'm saying is that's really why when I thrive, uh, living intentionally, it's to really because I find that enjoyment of telling a story. I'm really passionate about that, but um, I want to be that kind of guy that, like, when I'm old, I want to be able to say, like, I gave it my absolute best,
Yeah.
and I never allowed myself to give into my own self doubt, or low self esteem in certain things, or whatever. We all deal with our own personal self consciousness, right? I want to always be like, hey, you know what? I didn't let that stop me when I did my best, and if my best was only here, at least I know that was my best. That wasn't.
Yeah.
I would rather not be that guy who's sitting in my nursing home chair wondering, hey, had I done this, had I taken this risk, had I tried a little bit harder, would my story be different?
Mm.
Would my outcome be different? Um, and so I think waking up on purpose and living on purpose and making those choices to be the best version of yourself, um, is self fulfilling for yourself, to know that you've put your best foot forward, um, but also having everyone get the best version of yourself too, and really take care of yourself, so that way, like we talked about earlier, you want people to be getting to encounter, like, the best they can when they're partnering with you, or they're trying to collaborate with you, or just whatever the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Love it.
Cy, this has been so wonderful.
Yeah, it's been pretty great.
You have given me so many good speaking points in our marriage, in my work, in our child's life.
I'm gonna wait for those. I'm gonna wait for those punching signals. I'm gonna be ready.
In 12 years when we talk again. No, I'm just kidding. We're gonna talk before then. But our 3-year-old will be 15 and she'll be like, Cy, I hear you talk. My mom talks about you all the time. That I need to be a better partner with my brother.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. This was so special. We really
it's been a pleasure. I'm excited, to see that you both are doing real well, and you get stuck with it too. Like when I met you guys, you're freshmen, sophomores, or
freshmen.
And freshmen. And so it's so funny is a lot of you guys have really gone and taken filmmaking, and it's to the point where you guys know far more than I do in filmmaking. And at one point, I was the senior, and you guys are like stepping into, our world.
Right.
We're just like, nah, dude. But I'm excited to see that you guys are doing well. And you're doing, you're following your passion, and like we talked about earlier, this is something that is interesting to you, and you get a lot out of it, and it's you're sharing it with a lot of people. So I'm excited. I think I finally got to this point too where I've learned a lot around me, and I'm entertaining that idea of if we can make of these films work, if someone has a great film idea, it wouldn't be too far-fetched for us to be like, hey, this is a script. Do you think we can shoot this in 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
Yeah.
I'll fly over to Atlanta. We'll make it happen.
Come on down.
Yeah. And Atlanta is, it's the place right now for stunt people.
Yeah.
So I know quite a few people who, have already made the move. Not that I'm saying gonna move, but I'm saying
we'll save a place for you.
It's exciting to think that, with the right alignment of things, it wouldn't be too far-fetched for us to shoot a miniseries or something. I'm keeping that door open. That's where it's ever at.